We have a reporter, of course, who's in the streets of Washington, getting the mood, bringing us the latest. She's Catherine Norris Trent. She joins us now. Catherine, over to you.
Hi there, Mark. So there are no big crowds in the streets of Washington in this very unusual inauguration, but, you know, a few members of the public have been trickling down to as near as they can get to the action. Here we're in Black Lives Matter Plaza down in central Washington, and I am joined by this gentleman from California. Can you tell me how you feel today, sir?
I feel like a weight has been lifted off of maybe my shoulders and the shoulders of the country. You know, I feel that there's a ray of hope. And there were times, like in the last few years, you know, I didn't have that feeling. Yeah, it was draining. I used to always tell my friends it was like he was sucking all the oxygen out of the room. Yeah. So let's get some air back into this country. Yep.
Do you feel like the big divides we've seen in recent years in American society can be overcome now because those divisions are deep?
That's a good question. So that divide has been growing, right? It's just that Trump came along and manipulated it, right? And it went from 60 miles an hour to 100 miles an hour. And if you take out some of his rhetoric, it will slowly maybe decrease and stuff, but that feeling that's pervasive out there amongst people in America, of certain groups, it's going to take a while. It's going to take, I think, one more generation, at least one more generation, right? Before maybe some of the feelings of animosity and some of the beliefs that they possess and stuff start to fade away. Yeah.
We're here in this square, which has been renamed Black Lives Matter Plaza, and we see the flags and things everywhere. Do you feel the racism that emerged and the big protests over racial divides can be overcome now? Do you feel more hopeful about that?
Honestly, am I more hopeful about like racism? And you know, I thought a lot of this stuff was behind us, right? But when Barack Obama got elected, I started to notice that there was a bubbling and a simmering, you know, starting to develop. And once Trump got in and stuff, you know, it reached a full boil and, you know, began to spill over. The people that I had worked with, the people I had known since I was a child, right, start voicing like some very strong racist opinions, you know? And I just never knew that that's the way they felt on the inside, you know? Because we had always been friends, you know, and we'd always talked and had these great conversations, but just something changed. Yeah, like whatever their inner feelings and their inner voice became their outer feelings and their outer voice. Yeah.
And yet today, we saw not only Biden swearing oath, but we saw Kamala Harris, the first woman of color to be vice president. Does that represent a ray of hope?
I think for the kids that are coming up, right, they will have a different perspective. For the people who are already adults or who are in middle age and definitely old age, it's not going to make that much difference to them, right? But you're going to look at things from a child or a young adult's perspective, and they would probably have like a different viewpoint of the world and what is possible. You know, I came up in the beginning, like I was born in 1962. I was born in a segregated hospital. So when I went to school in 1968, first grade, it was one of the first integrated classes, right? So I didn't have some of these things that other people had to deal with, right? I didn't have to deal with. So my perspective is a little bit different, perhaps to someone who's 10 years, 20 years, 30, 40 years older than me, you know? So I'm thinking that those kids will have like a different perspective as well.
Now, Andre, just before we went on, you said something I found really interesting. You said you wanted to tell the world that all Americans weren't crazy.
Yes, world, Paris, we're not all crazy. You just see most of the crazy ones on television and the more vocal people who like to stress their strong opinions, but they're not necessarily the opinions of most people in America. That's obvious because, you know, more people voted for Joe Biden than Donald Trump, you know. So we're out here. Yeah. Just keep the faith, man. Keep the faith. We'll bring it back. Yeah.
That is good to hear. And yet 74 million people voted for Trump.
No. I know. Yeah, that was a bit of a shock for me. I think a lot of people who never voted before voted in this election, you know? on both sides. Yeah. So that's why you had like such high numbers. Yeah. People who normally disregard elections, local, state, what have you, they decided to step up and vote. And that's what we got.
Okay, it's been great to
But
speak
good
to you.
triumphed over evil, I think.
It's been great to speak to you, Andre. Thank you so much.
speak to
Nice
you.
to meet you. Have a great day.
All right. Peace, love, soul, Paris.
And that is some of the celebratory mood we're getting down here on the streets of Washington now in this very sparse crowd, but there are a few people coming out and they are sounding overwhelmingly, here in Washington, D.C. at least, relieved and optimistic. I'm sure elsewhere in the States, you know, it's a very different picture, clearly a very divided country still.
Catherine with the guest of the day, Andre. What a fantastic man. What a great message. Peace and love from Black Lives Matter Plaza. Catherine, thank you very much indeed. Let's keep it in Washington.